So welcome everybody to this live training video number 3, and this one is all about how to keep fit and healthy in midlife. So this is a topic that's really important to any midlife woman, I'm sure, and it's particularly one that's very close to my heart. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some slides up on share screen. You'll still see me in the corner, and then we'll get cracking. Okay, so here we are. Right, so let's just put this on slideshow. Good, so you should see me in the top corner and see the slides. Fantastic. So this is number 3 of my video training series with myself, Lindsay Agnes. Let me just tell you a little bit about me before we get started. So I am a master trainer of something called neuro-linguistic programming, and we talked a bit about NLP in video number 2. And NLP is really, it's really an amazing toolkit for change, and it provides, and I guess it's often defined as an instruction manual for the brain. And this is something that I have studied consistently since 1997. And I'm now one of the few women in the world, actually, who is qualified to master practitioner level. I worked for 11 years as a change management consultant at PricewaterhouseCoopers before setting up my own business. And my own business is absolutely focused on both professional and personal change. And I'm the writer of 4 books, including Change Your Life with NLP, which is still a bestseller out there and has been translated into many, many different languages. So my philosophy, again, I think it's really important to understand something about my own values. You know, I believe that everybody has the power to become the person that they truly want to be and live their lives with purpose, passion, in order to reach their true potential. So let me say that again. You know, I believe that everybody has the power to become the person they want to be and to live their lives with purpose and passion, you know, in order to reach their true potential. And health and fitness is a really, really important part of enabling us to reach our potential, because, you know, we live our lives in this body, you know, and through this body. And this body is the vessel through which we achieve our goals. So it's absolutely vital that we keep it, you know, in really good health. So that's something about me and my philosophy. So let's get started. You know, I'm always curious. I mean, I wrote a book a couple of years ago called Lose Weight with NLP, and I did a lot of research around why we're getting fatter, different kinds of diets, and I've brought some of those ideas into this particular training video. But one of the things I was fascinated to find out more about was, you know, why are we getting fatter? And there's a number of reasons for this. But we know that our stress levels are higher. You know, we're working longer hours, we're busier than we ever have been before. And when we're under stress, it releases a hormone called cortisol into the body. And what that does is it gets the body ready for this fight or flight mechanism, and the digestion process slows down in order to prepare us and ready us for the challenge ahead. But once we've calmed down, cortisol levels in our body tell us that we're hungry and we need to refuel in order to fight more stress. And sadly, this fat becomes stored around the middle. So of course, you know, our bodies are designed to still really to behave as hunters, you know, many hundreds of years ago. But of course, you know, our environment has adapted, whereas our actual bodies haven't really adapted that much. And so, you know, the mere fact of getting under stress now, you know, puts the body into this sympathetic state of arousal, this fight and flight mechanism. And we're having, you know, far too much cortisol in the body, and this is, as I say, is leading to fat being stored around the middle, which, as we know, as midlife women, can become or start to become a big problem. We're certainly turning to alcohol. Our intake has doubled, and the cost of alcohol has halved since 1960. I mean, I can remember when I was growing up at home, you know, my parents very rarely drank alcohol. You know, it was something for the Christmas dinner and other special occasions. Whereas now what's happening is when people get home in the evening, they're turning to alcohol in order to de-stress. So, you know, it becomes a really troublesome cycle. And the other thing about alcohol to remember is that alcohol contains empty calories. So in terms of nutrients, it provides us with nothing other than a lot of sugar, which we really don't need. And I'll talk a bit more about that in a bit more detail a bit later. And of course, our lifestyles have changed. You know, we're far more sedentary, and we sit down a lot more. We're walking far less. We're using our cars, and you know, we eat on the go. So we're not allowing our bodies to, you know, enjoy food, absorb food in the most efficient and effective way. And the other thing I found in my research, which I found fascinating, is that ready meals are now 50% bigger than they were in the 1990s. So, you know, in the space of less than 20 years, or getting on, I'm talking about nearly 30 years, in the space of just under 30 years, you know, these ready meals that we were buying, you know, have doubled in size. And of course, we're eating them. And the content in the ready meals is very bad for us as well. I'll say more about that in a moment. So there's lots of reasons why we happen to be getting fatter. And I also did a lot of research around, you know, why is it that diets don't work? And there's some really important things that I really would like you to understand about going on a diet. So a severe restriction of food is not good for the body. I mean, it will help you to lose weight, there's no doubt about that. But without the nutrients, you know, your body does not have the fuel to do what it needs to do for you. So when you go on almost a starvation diet, or you go on one of these diets where you just drink special drinks or whatever it might be, you know, when you lose weight quickly, it's really important, a quarter of that weight loss will be water, muscle and bone. So just listen to that for a moment. A quarter of that weight loss will be water, muscle and bone, not the fat that you actually want to lose. And the other thing that happens when you severely restrict your body of food is that your body goes into survival mode, which slows down the metabolism. And when you return to your normal diet, your metabolism is slower than it was before, and therefore you risk putting on more weight than you were carrying before. And that's why, you know, it's very common for people to lose a lot of weight, and then when they start eating normally again, you know, not only do they put back on the weight that they have lost, but they put back on even more. Because the body, you know, has learned how to store fat in case another famine is imminent. So, you know, when you severely restrict food, the body goes into panic mode. You know, it thinks, where is this food coming from? And it begins to lay down fat, actually, you know, in case we start to starve ourselves again. So that's, you know, some reasons there why diets just do not work. So what's much better for you is, you know, to find a way of eating that suits you. And fast again, you know, this is all really interesting stuff. You know, the truth about our food. I mean, you read so many different things out there, but what I firmly believe and what I find really interesting is that many of the foods and drinks that we have been told are good for us may actually be creating obesity and illness in our population. Now, Gary Taubes, who's a favourite of mine, you know, wrote a very controversial article for the New York Times back in 2002, and it was called "What If It's All Been a Big Fat Lie?" And more recently, he's also read "Why We Get Fat" in 2011 and "The Case Against Sugar" in 2016. And I would really urge you, you know, if you're interested in finding out more about this, to, you know, go out and read some of Gary's work. Now, his view was that it's not the fat that makes us fat, but it's actually the carbohydrates. And these are things like pasta, rice, bread, which, you know, have been the staple food of our healthy low-fat diet. And they're foods that have been promoted, you know, over the last 40 and 50 years. And the other thing is, you know, we do know about sugar-free drinks and fruit juices that we have taken to drinking in such tremendous amounts. And often we pick the fat-free variety because they appear intrinsically healthy. But actually, you know, there are other things going on with those drinks that are not good for us. And certainly if we drink the full sugar varieties, they are really, really not good for us. And if you are going to drink any fruit juice at all, you know, make sure you're drinking absolutely fresh fruit juice. And what I do often is I'll water it down, you know, so I'm not getting as much sugar. So there are a few things to start thinking about. So when I talk to people about what you shouldn't eat, and I have to tell you something actually, that 6 months ago, I started on this particular way of living my life. Because I'm not a big person, those that know me. No, I'm not particularly overweight, but at my age, I'm in my 50s now, and it was that last, you know, kind of half stone that had been gradually creeping on over the last 4 or 5 years. And I was really struggling to get rid of that, that amount of weight. And that's unusual for me because I've got a goal, I'm usually really, really focused, but it just wasn't happening. And so I read a bit more and more into different ways of eating, revisited the Torb's work, and I thought, okay, what I'm going to do now is I am going to change my diet, and I am actually going to cut out all the things that he talks about not eating for a period of 3 months. And then, you know, I may well reintroduce some occasionally, but still not, you know, eating those things as on a frequent basis. So I certainly cut out bread, baguettes, cakes, biscuits, crackers, pastries, white pasta. You know, I cut all of those things out. So all of the sugar, all of the white flour. I also cut out alcohol completely for a whole month, and also cut out cow's milk, and started to drink alternative varieties of milk. And then I started to exercise in a different way, which I'll talk a bit more about in a moment. But it was quite interesting because for the first couple of weeks, not a lot happened. But then I started to notice that the weight gradually started to come off. And if I can tell you that back in November, you know, I weighed 10 stone 3. I still calculate these things in stones and hopeless in kilograms. And now I'm down to 9 stone 4. So I have lost 13 pounds. I mean, that was more than my original target. But I found it really easy, you know, and the weight was coming off, not, you know, in huge, great amounts every week, but gradually. I mean, that's the thing. If you change the way you eat, then you get into a healthy way of losing weight. It's not this severe restriction on how you're losing weight. It's something that happens much more gradually. So I've done it. So I can absolutely say, yes, this does work. And the thing is, it's not just the calories that are alarming, but it's also the way that these types of food are digested. So these foods have all got a very high GI level, and they're quickly turned into sugars in the body. And when that happens, it causes a rush of insulin into the bloodstream in order to clear the sugar from your blood before it does any damage. So that's a natural reaction of the body. And what the insulin does, it moves the excess blood sugar from your blood and causes it to be stored as fat on your stomach, hips, arteries, brain, and heart. So not good. So it's not only that these things are not good to eat, it's also how they're processed in the body. And what tends to happen is if you eat a lot of those sugary, white, floury food, is that you'll get a brief peak of energy as the sugars are released, followed by a bigger slump as the insulin clears out the sugar from your body. So as your brain then becomes starved of fuel, it tells you to refuel. So you can, you know, often get hungry again very, very quickly. And this rapid rise and fall in blood glucose is caused by this excessive production of insulin. Very vicious circle. And it's a situation ripe for obesity and type 2 diabetes, which is absolutely frightening, isn't it? You know, I find this terrifying. And yet, you know, it really is an answer to why, you know, the UK is now the 3rd most obese country in the whole world, you know, behind the US and Mexico, which is absolutely diabolical. And unless, you know, we start to change this, then just imagine, you know, what's going to happen to the next generation. So then what should you eat? So in terms of my diet and in terms of the research that I've done, is it's actually getting back to that pure level as far as you can. So it's stopping eating food that's processed. It's eating creatures from the land and creatures from the sea, as I like to call them. So it's lean meat, poultry, eggs. It's fish, shellfish, oil-rich fish, salmon and trout that are very high in omega-3 fatty acids, which are absolutely essential to our diet. Things that grow naturally, root vegetables, fruits, berries, salad ingredients, beans, seeds, and nuts. And again, you know, watch the fruit a little bit, not too much. I mean, obviously fruit has got natural sugar. It's better than processed sugar. But again, you probably need to be a little bit careful about that. And things to drink, you know, drink water and herbal teas. I mean, that's actually the other thing I cut out was caffeine. So I've been drinking lots of really, really interesting new teas that are great, actually. I completely adore them. And drink filter or bottled water. And there are many good milk alternatives out there, such as organic soya milk, rice milk, almond milk. And I've actually been drinking a lot of almond milk recently, and one that's not on this list, which is coconut milk. That's another milk that I've introduced into my diet. And as I say, 13 pounds later, I'm really happy. So here are some other tips, you know, in terms of not only changing how you eat, but tips to increase your metabolism, because when our metabolism is working at its most effective, you know, it is helping to really, you know, build off or exercise off those calories in our bodies. So a few ideas here, you know, always eat some protein with every meal as it slows down digestion. Eat regularly, so little and often is really, really good. And try not to eat too late into the evening. So certainly once it gets past 8 o'clock, you know, be a bit wary of that. Get enough sleep. I mean, sleep is amazing in terms of replenishing us. And one of the other things that I did when I started on this new way of eating was to start getting enough sleep and going to bed earlier and getting up earlier. And I feel brilliant for it, actually. So no more really, you know, late nights working to 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I now go to bed normally, you know, of course not every night. Most nights I'm in bed by 10:30, and I feel great at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning and ready, you know, to get going. Take some exercise. You know, you really should be exercising 5 times a week, even if it's just a nice walk. You know, just get yourself out there. I mean, I've been doing a lot more exercise, although it's something that I've always had in my routine. But I've been just doing it regularly. You know, maybe not so much, but I'm doing it more often. And the other thing that's quite interesting is turn the heating down. You know, we know that the body has to work harder when the room is colder. So again, you know, if you sleep in a very, very warm room at night, one of the quick things you can do, a little quick win there, is just to turn the heating off while you're asleep. So there's some ideas, you know, to increase your metabolism. And here's, you know, we talked about NLP on video, training video number 2. Here's a few strategies that are really, really important. You know, I think one of the reasons why diets don't work and people lose motivation is that they haven't actually got a really important vision for why it's important to them to be fit and healthy. And it's really important to focus on something positive rather than something negative. So if I just think about, you know, I don't want to be fat. What's interesting is the brain does not process negatives very well. I'm going to say a bit more about that in a moment. In fact, let's move on and have a look at that. Yeah, so first of all, set yourself a specific goal. And we talked about this in seminar number 1, training video number 1, how to set a specific goal. You must have a goal around your healthy eating and your exercise that is really important to you and really keeps you going. You know, I had a brilliant goal. You know, I really, really, you know, bumped up this vision of how good I was going to feel, you know, having lost that weight. And that really, you know, kept me going. So let's just talk a bit about why we should not focus on what we don't want. So if I were to say to you right now, whatever you do, don't think about a blue elephant, what happens? You know, a picture of a blue elephant pops into your mind. And we know from neuroscience that our brains do not process negative. So as soon as we tell somebody what not to do, it starts to create that internal representation. And this is really interesting for diets, because if we're fixating on not eating that muffin or not having another takeaway tonight, actually what we're starting to do is to focus on that thing that we don't want to do. And it makes our attention towards that thing and our energy grow. So we're far more likely then to lose our discipline and willpower and actually go and do the one thing that we were determined not to do. So it's really important to have something that you're moving towards, a vision for what it is that you want to create for the future. We talked also on training video number 2 about cause and effect, but I want to remind you about this. The only person that can change your level of health and fitness is you. I was amazed when I did my research for the book, Lose Weight with NLP. It's a number of people that were willing to do most things, even go into hospital and have an operation to have their stomach stapled. They were willing to do most things rather than change what they eat and change how they exercise. I found that really quite worrying, actually. And I even spoke to some people who were deliberately putting on weight so they could tip over that body mass index level that actually then tripped the ability for them to go and have, the gastric band operation on the National Health. So, this is scary stuff. What's going on? Just take responsibility. It's your life, it's your body. So we talked last time about, the difference between people being on the cause side of the scenario and the people being at effect. So if you're on the effect side, it's never your fault. No, well, I would lose weight, but actually it's really difficult with work at the moment. I'm stressed out. I'm too stressed. I'm working too hard to take any exercise at the moment. Of course, everybody in our family's big bones, so how can I ever expect to lose weight? Whatever it is, just listen to yourself. Listen to these words coming out of your mouth. And often, the tip-off to if you're on the effect side is I would have done something, but, so this little word but, start to notice when it pops out of your mouth and start to challenge, where you are. Because if you're on the cause side of the scenario, then you're absolutely taking responsibility for what it is that you want to create. Last November, I gave myself a good talking to, actually, and I said, look, Lindsay, it's now time. This is if you just leave it a bit longer, those 5-6 pounds are going to creep up to a stone, maybe a stone and a half. Let's just deal with it. Focus on your result rather than, all your reasons or excuses for not achieving your result, because actually that's how you really become truly empowered for taking responsibility for what it is that you want. So, ask yourself that question. And the other thing I say to people is, just keep going. And these are some of the things I say, is make a decision to get started right now. Just cut the crap, really. Remember, you can change your destiny instantly once you make a decision to do something differently. And I was doing a webinar the other day, and it was brilliant because I had literally 3 or 4 emails ping into my inbox almost within a couple of hours of that webinar. And they were people saying to me, Lindsay, you're right. I have made a choice now. I have made a choice that things are going to change. And as soon as you make that choice, then your destiny starts to alter, because you start to attract different things to you. You start to think differently, etc. So focus on what you want and visualize your success. Go back to video training seminar number 1 if necessary. Make sure those goals are smart and that they're really, really inspiring for you and that you're moving towards what it is that you want. So take a first step today. There are no more excuses. Transform your shopping trolley. Change your drinking habits. You can do it. And, it's okay when you fall off the wagon or go off the rails. It happens to me. It's happened many times. However, what I've learned to do is to get back on track fast. So I was in Venice fairly recently, and it's really difficult to be away in Venice and not eat any pasta or pizza. However, as soon as I got back home, I got back into my regime again and got back on track really, really quickly. If you can be disciplined 80% of the time, it will make a huge difference. And you can give yourself a tap on the clap on the back. That's fine. 80% is good enough. You know, in fact, if you're paranoid about this 100% of the time, then you begin to become rather a dull person. It's a bit like, you know, we have to live a little as well. So there are times when you will drink. There are times when you'll eat the things that you're not supposed to. Just get back on track as quickly as possible. And of course, reward yourself something non-edible, just to remind you, when you do well. So, you know, you can have little milestones. When I get to this point about my health or my fitness or my exercise, when I reach that point, you know, I'm going to go and do this. Maybe I'm going to have a short holiday or buy myself a new outfit or whatever it might be. You know, reward yourself with something that is meaningful to you. So that's the end of video training, live video training number 3. If you want to learn more, and I'm sure, you know, you're thinking, how can I, you know, take these learnings and keep them going? You know, we run very regular mind and body retreats at Age with Attitude, and they're usually 3-day weekends when you can come along and work with myself directly and my body coach who comes along as a guest speaker. So we do a bit of a double act. You know, I work on the mind, she works on the body. And all at the same time in a beautiful, you know, luxurious location. So what could be better than that? So come along to the website, agewithattitude.co.uk, and have a look under our live programs. You know, you can find out much more information about our mind and body retreat. So that's the end of this particular live training video. I'm just going to stop share for a moment and come back in. So hello again. I really have enjoyed spending this time with you. And just to let you know that live training video number 4, which will be coming into your inbox very, very shortly, is about a really, really important topic. It's about financial strategies for midlife women that really work. You know, one of the things I hear from the midlife women that I coach is, you know, about they can't afford to leave their partners or their husbands because they've got no money and they're scared about, you know, not having enough. Or, you know, they're making decisions that are less than sensible about their finances, or they've given all their financial power away, you know, to somebody else. So let's have a look at that in the next live training session. So have a really, really great rest of the day. Lindsay Agnes here, now checking out, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.